Okay, let's talk Doctor Who. Doctor Who has given us a host of iconic monsters over the years, with creatures such as the Daleks, Cybermen and Weeping Angels cementing themselves in pop culture. However, today I want to look at those one-off monsters, those terrifying foes who came and went, who possibly deserve another round with the famous Time Lord. And very quickly, I'm only going to focus on New Who today.
What?
I'm going to make a video in the future about classic villains I want to see return to the show, so if that's something you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button. But for now, here's the top 10 one-off Doctor Who monsters, starting with number 10, the Pating. Okay, before you click off this video, give me a chance. I promise you this is probably the only one that will make you particularly angry, but hear me out. The Pating is great. There, I said it. I love this little hungry gremlin child and I want to see him again. Now the episode he's in, the conundrum is not good. It's awful, to be honest, and it's the one thing Doctor Who should never be, which is boring. And this episode has a whole list of issues, but the Pating isn't one of them. If anything, the episode is so cluttered with side plots we just don't care about that the actual fun concept of the episode is completely swept aside. Because the Pating is different to a lot of the other creatures we get. He doesn't want the end of the world. He couldn't care less about the Doctor or Time Lords. He's just hungry. I want to see this little guy causing havoc, destruction beyond repair. I want to see him munching up worlds, devouring cities, sod it, let him loose in IKEA. The Pating has the potential to be such a fun creature in the world of Doctor Who, and I genuinely believe if the episode was good, there'd be a lot more people who would agree with me. Number 9, the Gelf. We're going all the way back to 2005 with this one, and the new series is first go at tea time horror. Honestly, I'm surprised the Gelf aren't on more scary Doctor Who monster lists. I've spoken before about this, but as a child, this episode terrified me, and I still think it holds up now. It's slower pace than the first 2 episodes of the season, but I think that works in its favour. The cold open is brilliantly creepy. I adore the scene in the theatre. These two are terrifying. They're just a very simple concept, executed incredibly well, and although I don't think they really need to come back, I would love Doctor Who to do another episode with this gothic-like style again. Also, this woman's ghostly moan will forever haunt my childhood. Number 8, the Foretold. The Foretold is just another example of a simple premise done brilliantly, and I think that's probably a good way to describe the episode as a whole. There's so much to love about it, and it's no surprise it ranks quite high in the Capaldi era. It's the first time a lot of people really felt him as the Doctor. I adore Gus. I think Gus is great.
Call me Gus.
And the Foretold is just visually brilliant. I mean, just look at the amount of work that went into creating him. And the episode does a great job at establishing the threat, even down to the clock appearing on the screen. And I really love how he's spoken about like some kind of myth. There's a lore to this creature that just makes him feel rich. Like, can we please just have Jamie Matheson back to Doctor Who? The Boneless aren't on this list, but they probably could have been. He just gets it. Number 7, the Family of Blood. Human Nature and the Family of Blood is my favourite episode of Doctor Who. I adore everything about it. It's dripping in drama, incredibly moving, and has some powerhouse performances. And the Family of Blood are like the cherry on top. They're so menacing, the actors just sell it.
Headmaster, sir, good evening, sir. Come to give me a caning, sir. Would you like that, sir?
That moment where brother of mine sniffs the air like a maniac is just brilliant. I mean, what a creep. And the fact there's so much mystery surrounding them makes them all that more scary. They're not just determined to win, they're desperate. And what I love most about them is their biggest fear, being scared of dying, is actually something many viewers can relate to. It's really horrifying to witness such a human flaw in a group of characters that have nothing human about them. And they definitely should never come back either, because their ending is just brilliant and gives us one of my favourite ever moments in the show.
We wanted to live forever, so the Doctor made sure that we did.
Number 6, the Midnight Entity. As someone who has worked with a lot of children, I can tell you there is nothing more infuriating than when they decide to copy everything you say. I don't know why, but it just makes my blood boil, and this episode just takes that simple premise and turns it up to 11. The Midnight Entity is a perfect example of fear of the unknown. Now, I love my in-your-face monsters. I love sharp teeth and long claws and emotionless robots, but sometimes all you need is the beady eyes of Leslie Sharp to give you sleepless nights. The fact we as an audience never get any answers to what this thing is makes it all that more compelling. It's a claustrophobic nightmare, and we, the viewers, are forced into it right alongside our characters. This thing is powerful, bloodthirsty, and a complete mystery that should never, ever be solved. Number 5, the Dream Lord. Introduced to us in Matt Smith's first series and played by the incredibly talented Toby Jones, the Dream Lord really devours every moment of screen time. And his deadpan sarcasm, over-the-top cockiness, and terrible bathrobe make this one-off villain a great addition to the Doctor Who universe. The fact we later find out he's a manifestation of the Doctor's dark side not only makes perfect sense, but also adds that extra level of creepiness. This is an insight to what the Doctor could have been and could still be if he didn't choose to be the hero. Also, bonus points to the weird old people with an eye in their mouth. The Dream Lord is obviously the more talked about villain of the episode, but I adore these all-seeing pensioners. Number 4, The Beast. Okay, you can moan all you want about season 2, but this two-parter is golden, and The Beast is just one of the many things that makes this a top-tier Doctor Who story. From that booming voice to Toby and the Red-Eye Ood, and then the final reveal of Satan himself, The Beast just has a presence in this episode that is unlike many other villains we get. And that's why it works, because he really feels like a major threat. It's interesting how the new series is delving into gods, and yet none of them have felt as dangerous or powerful as the Beast. And the dialogue he's given is just magic. This scene alone is one of my favourite moments from the first RTD era.
The soldier, haunted by the eyes of his wife. The scientist, still running from Daddy.
I just love it when we get snippets of something but we never really learn anymore. And although I don't think the Beast will or should ever come back, I'd love it if the gods in the newer episodes had a bit more of his menace and power.
Don't look at me. One look and you will die.
Number 3, The Flood. Doctor Who has a knack of turning everyday things into terrifying foes, and this episode, it's water that gets made into a terrifying monster. The Flood are just sinister, from their cracked mouths to animalistic screams. Everything about them is just horribly grim. And the reason they work is because the episode itself gives them this urgency. Our little crew of characters are picked off one by one, and we really feel like there's no way out. The desperation of the crew creates this tense and heartbreaking atmosphere and really makes the Flood feel unstoppable. Because in a way, they are. Like, how do you stop water? Turn off a tap, but you know what I mean. Personally, I would love to see the Flood back, but only if there was something completely new you could do with them. It'd have to feel different enough that it didn't just feel like a lesser Waters of Mars, and I think that's partly why we haven't seen these wetlings since 2009. Number 2, the Crinitanes. How have these not come back yet? It's been 19 years since their first appearance, and God, that makes me feel old. And I don't understand how we haven't had another Crinitane episode in Doctor Who. They are just set up perfectly for returning, more so than most other aliens we get in the show. Their whole thing is that they take physical attributes from the races they conquer, which 1 is a great concept, so weirdly dark, but also 2 means you can literally do anything with them. Some Doctor Who monsters are very much rooted in their concept. For example, if you try and take something like the Weeping Angels and do too much with them, you actually lose what makes them so iconic. But the Crinitanes don't have that. Their evil plot isn't attached to their identity, so a writer can kind of do whatever they want. I actually think that if the show ever went on another hiatus, which, God forbid, but if it did, I think the Crinitanes would be a perfect monster for episode 1. If you wanted to mirror bringing back an old monster like this series did with the Autons, it'd be quite fun to bring back one from the new series, and the Crinitanes just work for that. And before we go on to the number 1 spot, which, let's be honest, you've probably all guessed what it is, let's quickly do some honourable mentions. Starting with the Veil. What makes this creature stand out other than their amazing fashion sense is the sound design that comes with them. The simple use of buzzing flies creates this feeling of death and decay, and the fact it's born from the Doctor's childhood nightmares just adds that little extra menace. The Peg Dolls. Not much to say about this one. The episode itself is alright, but the Peg Dolls are horrifying. Wasted potential in my opinion. The Gas Mask Zombies. One-offs that would never work again, but my god are these iconic. They've really stuck in the public's consciousness, and anyone who watched the show in 2005 will know that iconic catchphrase immediately.
Are you my mummy?
Swarm and Azure. These guys very nearly made the actual list, but in the end I chose against it, mainly because we did get like 6 episodes with them. And I know that is one big story, but still. These really were the best thing about Flux, and although many will disagree with me, I still kind of think they were wasted. You could cut so much of the fluff out of Flux and just allow these two to chew up the scenery a bit more, and I think it would have made for a better season of telly. And finally, number 1, the Azorbilant. I'm joking. Number 1, the Vashta Nerada. Let's be honest, we all knew this one would take the number 1 spot. The Vashta Nerada are just genius. Not only do they play into the very common fear of the dark, but they also turn the child's game of don't step on the shadows into a nightmare-inducing monster that isn't easily forgotten. Also, there's so much going on in the Library 2-parter that it's a testament to their design and creepiness that they're so well remembered. Definitely when surrounded by stuff like the introduction of River, the Uncanny Valley dream sequences, and that heartbreaking ending.
You, me, handcuffs. Must it always end this way?
And I know many people say they want to see them come back in the show, and although I don't disagree, I have the same opinion of them as the Flood. These should only ever come back if the script is amazing and the idea feels different enough so it's not constantly compared to their first story. Now, I've definitely missed a lot from this list. I can already hear many of you screaming at the screen, "Where is the frog?" So do comment below some of your favourite one-off monsters, and if you liked the video, why not check out some of these?